Oh, yes, indeed. Good afternoon, and welcome to today's episode of Xandermonium, the talk show that gets you talking. I'm your host, Xander Gibb, and on today's show, I will be breaking down the hottest topics with my guest co-host, the one, the only, Mr. Tony Losacco. And in part two, I will be with Tyhe Paul Egar looking at the Scottish independence vote results. So we'll be taking your calls all the way through. More to come in a mere moment. So as per usual, you can interact with us during the show in the chat room at the bottom of the page. You can call us with your questions on 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. Call us with your questions or chime in with your own topics or things you want to get off your chest. You can also tweet us on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at Xander Gibb. That's XanderGibb with a capital X and a capital G. And you can tweet Tony on at Full Story 2014. That's FULLSTORY. And the number is 2014. And you can tweet Ty on at Tyhe Paul Egar. That's TYHEPAULEGAR. Tweet me if you are too shy, and I will make your point for you. Oh, yes, indeed, I will. So the seasons are changing, and summer bids us a fond adieu, and fall is almost fully upon us. Apparently, it's the last day of summer today, and I'm going to cry. So as we pack away our bikinis, grills, and pools, we long for the summer cut to come back again. And we begin to unpack our winter wardrobes and sweaters from that box you've been keeping on top of the wardrobe. Now, I never like change, especially the kind that is beyond my control. And let's face it, we cannot control everything, especially the seasons, or it would be summer all round for most of us. Now, changing the things we are in control of can be just as difficult. And although some of us achieve it, a lot of us don't. Now, it brought to mind for me the serenity prayer that says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Now, I wonder if sometimes it is wisdom or courage that I lack to exercise certain changes in my life. And I'm so good with work-related things, and I'm very committed to meeting my work deadlines and goals. But in my personal life, it's a whole different story. Now, I also wondered how I could marry the two together and maybe bring some of the personal things that I struggle with into my business life. And to this end, in order to help me to lose weight and get fitter, I'm going to be weighed on my TV show. And I'll be sharing my weight, which is kind of scary. And I will be working with a personal trainer and a nutritionist in order to help me meet my objectives head on. Now, I'm also hoping in this process to encourage others to do the same, because believe me, if I can do it, then anybody can. And if doing it publicly helps me to achieve my goals, then this is what I have to do. I have to challenge myself and meet that challenge head on. Now, will you challenge yourself this week? Watch this space. So don't forget to get your tickets this week for our friend Miss Coco Peru's next NYC show, which is called Have You Heard? And she will be in town for October 7th, 8th, and 9th at Birdland, and tickets are $30 and well worth it. Go to www.birdlandjazz.com to secure your seat. Well, not right now. After my show will be fine. And you can also check out the one, the only Miss Coco Peru at www.misscocoperu.com, and you can follow her on Facebook and Twitter. So joining me to break down the hotter topics and the issues that matter to us is a broadcaster, libertarian, and free thinker, the one, the only, Mr. Tony Losacco. Welcome back to the show, Tony. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Xander. How are you?
Good. I am fabulous. I'm not enjoying this muggy heat without any sunshine today, though. It kind of feels odd. You know, it's like when it's raining and it's hot and or it's cold and the sun is out. I just can't equate it. My eyes and my sense of the weather kind of needs to be both the same, because it's kind of like it's a little bit misleading. So is it the same there? Is it warm but dim?
Actually, it's pretty nice and sunny out right now here. We're having good weather for once. Yeah.
Brilliant. So how has your week been? I know you've been launching your new business Concern. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and what you're trying to actually do?
Sure. Actually, it's going really great. I'm actually starting a life coaching business, basically for people that need help or have problems or want to talk about things, but they're not comfortable going to a professional counselor. And I'm doing it mainly through the internet. I mean, I offer the sessions locally where, in my area, of course, one-on-one in somebody's home, but a lot of it's just listening to people and helping them work through their own problems, because a lot of times we really have the answers in ourselves, or we'll ask our friends for advice, and everybody, as well-intentioned as friends and families are, really, they just have their own solution the way it should be based on their own prejudice. So that's why it's good kind of to talk to an outsider with some experience to help you work through things. So that's basically what I'm doing, and I've gotten a tremendous response. People that I've helped over the years are now commenting back on the video I posted, like, he helped me, sure, he's great.
Brilliant.
So it's kind of overwhelming. It's pretty cool.
That's great. I totally see that, because it's very hard to be objective about your own issues and the things that you're encountering. I can't sort out my own emotional issues, but people will want to talk to me for hours about theirs, and I'm very objective about that. Mm-hmm. But I can't be about anything that affects me, because we can't be. Well, maybe some people can be objective about things that affect them, but personally, I cannot. So what kind of things are you doing to help people to work on their issues?
Well, it kind of depends on the situation. The first thing I do, that's why I offer the first session free. Sit down with the person and see where they're coming from. And sometimes that's just a tremendous help in itself, just having somebody sit there and listen to you and ask you questions and help you think through it. Then a lot of the times, it depends on how far that goes. Because sometimes somebody comes to you with an issue often, and it's not really the real issue, and they're really getting at something else. So sometimes that takes just a lot of talking to and listening. It could be several sessions later, or they have some goals they really want to accomplish, and they just need that extra push, that extra support, whether it's quitting smoking, like you said, losing weight, getting in shape. And a lot of us, the thing is, we want to do something or we want to quit something, but we just don't have that motivation. We kind of need that cheerleader on our side, that extra person. Or with problems, a lot of the times we really know what we need to do, but we just really need somebody to sit there and listen and help us work through it. So
are you telling us for a small fee you will turn up at our workplace with pom-poms and cheer for us, or is that the service you're not providing right now?
But the bikini will be extra.
Right. Okay. Maybe you could get Kiko to provide that part of the service. So let's have a look at some of the stories that we're going to look at today and talk about. So the Chinese city of Chongqing now has a smartphone sidewalk lane for those too engrossed to watch where they're going. The property manager of the building said it's intended to be ironic to remind people that it's dangerous to tweet while walking the street. Try saying that if you're Chinese. So there are lots of elderly people and children in the street, and walking with your cell phone may cause unnecessary collisions here, said Nong Chang, the marketing official with the Meising Group, which manages the area in the city's entertainment district. A 165-foot stretch of pavement has been marked with two lanes, one that prohibits cell phone use, next to the one that allows pedestrians to use them at their own risk, it says in parentheses. So the idea apparently came from a similar stretch of pavement in Washington, D.C., created by National Geographic Television as part of a behavioral experiment. Pedestrians were apparently not taking to the new lanes too seriously, but many were snapping pictures of the signs and the sidewalk. Those using their cell phones, of course, have not heeded the markings on the pavement. Apparently, they don't notice them. So, what do you make of this? Do we need cell phone lanes for people, or should people just be a bit more damn careful?
Well, I think the government needs to step in here, and we need to protect people from themselves, because people don't know how to walk on their own, Xander. I mean, we have to stop from walking on their own. The government should make it illegal to tweet or use your cell phone while walking, because people can't make those decisions for themselves, and the government needs to step in and regulate this right now, right at this moment. Who cares about taking away a little bit of freedom? We need to protect people. They can't do it for themselves. Yes, I'm being sarcastic.
A hint of sarcasm? I was just thinking you're obviously being a little bit sarcastic there.
But I use that to point out that's a liberal perspective on things normally. See?
Well, for some liberals, I'm sure that is, but I do think that where's common sense gone? Have we forgotten about common sense? Because I think most of us would have the common sense to be careful while we're walking down the street. Now, I'm the kind of person, my sister will call me, and I won't answer my cell phone while I'm driving. I just won't do it. I cannot concentrate on the road and talk on my cell phone. So when I get to my destination, if I'm parking, I'll call, and she's like, I called you 10 times, and I'm like, I'm driving. She's like, well, why didn't you pick up? Well, I don't want to kill someone. That might sound very silly, but I honestly believe that we shouldn't be texting and answering the phone and stuff while we're driving, because it detracts from your concentration. I think even these hands-free things, I had a Bluetooth thing for a while, and I gave it to one of my sisters because it just kind of like, it distracted me. I can't talk and drive, and even have a conversation. I can't do it. I'm good at multitasking with some things, but I cannot drive and talk. So I totally get why some people, everybody's busy. Everybody's so damn busy. Why not just sit down for a second and send a text or make a call, rather than do it? Because I know lots of people don't like it on the subway or on buses and stuff. That because people talk very loudly on these phones. Do you are you one of these people that will text and talk and stuff in public, or do you wait till you actually get to your destination?
Well, something, I really don't like texting. I was just on Facebook chatting with somebody messaging, and I asked them to call me. I really don't personally like typing over talking. I think we lose humanity, and it allows us to hide. And that's my personal view. I do it often now, only because it's kind of like Facebook versus MySpace. Remember when everybody was on Facebook and MySpace was starting to die? Well, you had to go to Facebook because that's where everybody was. Well, I have to text so much because that's the way people are talking to me. But I don't like it. I wish we could just go back to talking to each other and seeing each other in person, and we've lost that connection, really. That's my personal opinion,
I totally get that. I mean, I have an iPhone, and it's just a basic iPhone 4, but I love the fact that it's got talk to text. But it's had to get used to me because my accent is pretty mixed, and so that helps somewhat that it's now got used to me because I sit and talk to him. But even like with predictive text and things like that, it really bothers me when you change it and it wants to change the word again. And it's really funny. The iPhone is really good with like curse words, and you wouldn't think that, would you? Because like most things, like the dictionary and stuff on Word, it won't let you use curse words and stuff like that. So I've always found that very surprising that if you curse into your iPhone. And Siri, do you have an iPhone? Have you seen this Siri? She's got real attitude, and she's a real bitch to me, and I'm like, are you related to my mother?
No, I don't have an iPhone. I got an Android and a Windows phone, and I got an old Windows phone. I'm still waiting for Miss Corona to see how she is. The update still hasn't come in. Hello, T-Mobile, please take note.
Yeah, I've heard that T-Mobile is pretty good. I'm with Sprint, and it's really funny if I have a problem with them because they send you when you call you get to deal with their offices in outer Mongolia or some other equally godforsaken place. And they're reading from a script and they're like, "No, Mr. Gibb, we cannot do that for you." And I'm like, "Well, okay, that's fine." So I come off the phone, I go on social media, I bitch about it. And within a week or so, I've got what I want. They told me they weren't going to give me an iPhone, that I couldn't have this upgrade, that I couldn't have this, that, and the other. But I think that we've lost our voice somewhere as consumers because we don't stand up to companies anymore. I mean, I've had so much money back from companies and free stuff because I have the balls to complain. And I think we all need to start complaining more because that's how we get. That's how we get what. I mean, it's one thing if you're complaining for the sake of it. I would never do that. If you have a valid complaint, then damn well complain, because the important thing is that you get what you are paying for.
That is
what
true. Now,
are you making French fries there, Tony, or something?
You caught me. I was about to have some Cheetos. I was about to have some Cheetos. My Cheeto addiction.
I hope you're wearing gloves because you get orange hands with Cheetos. What's your attitude towards consumerism? Are you a complainer? I kind of guess you are because you're not afraid of standing up to things or situations. Do you complain to companies when you're not getting what you are paying for?
Usually restaurants only. My big thing's restaurants. If I get a raw deal at a restaurant, I will definitely let the restaurant know. But in general, if it's a bad product or whatever, I don't even honestly bother. I did have a issue with my garbage company a couple of weeks ago, and this speaks to the power of social media. It was on Labor Day. They mistakenly took me off the route for the third time after I paid them in advance and told them, they told me they'd pick me up, and they didn't. And their company was closed, so I was ticked. I went on a social media rant on their Facebook page. Within an hour, the owner of the company was at my house asking me to take the post down and picking up the garbage.
Wow.
I am not. I was shot. Like, I thought I was just, venting and getting some frustration out, And the guy came personally and said, "Look, mistakes were made. Can you please take that off our wall?" So it is a very, very powerful medium today.
Is.
I mean,
it really is. I live in the state of New York, and the garbage comes as part of your, it's in with your taxes.
Right.
So I guess in your state you have to pay separately for it, do you?
Yes, you do.
Right. Wow.
We have no services in Florida. That's a trade-off to very little taxes. And thank you, Pasco County Commission, for raising the gasoline tax 6 cents per gallon, which is going to hurt everybody, including the poor who can't afford it. Just how
are people supposed to deal with this? Because let's face it, most of us nowadays, whatever job you're doing, most of us are on a fixed income. Most of us kind of like we make ends meet, as it were. How are we supposed to find that extra 6 cents for gasoline? I mean, where's that supposed to come from?
Well, and this was particularly dirty. I mean, this is our local issue, but we didn't know about this vote. They didn't publicize it. They tried to say that they had no money to pave the roads, and they put this up for a vote, 6 cents a gallon on the gasoline. And people heard about that. They complained, so the vote didn't go. Right? The commissioners got pressured. A few weeks later, guess what? They held an undercover second vote. One of the commissioners changed his mind, but guess what? It was all about money, because the building industry, they're building in Pasco County, your homes and everything, it was a choice between this and more impact fees and more property taxes. So they couldn't pass it the first time. They snuck a second vote in. The key commissioner changed his vote, 6 cents a gallon. I mean, I've got clients, as you know, I'm a case manager, who are always asking me, is there help for gas? We don't have the money to go here, to go to the doctor, to go here. They can't afford it as it is. This is going to hurt the average Joe. It's going to affect the poor and the middle class, but not the rich as usual,
Exactly, but all of these things are circular. You know, we're already quite stumped financially, most people anyway, and they're still kind of like gouging it out of you, more and more. And I just wonder how much, I mean, that there are people that are living below the poverty line. I did see something the other day on social media where they were saying that they wanted to that the fast food workers should get $15.15 an hour. Which would make them on they reckoned that would make them on like $31,000 a year working, as a fast food assistant. I mean, I think everyone should be paid a living wage, whatever they do. But realistically, why should someone that works in the fast food industry be paid more than someone that's gone to college? I just can't. Go on.
I mean, that's one of my big things. I mean, I want to metaphorically wring people's necks when they talk about that, because I have $165,000 in student loans, almost a master's degree, and I don't make $15 an hour. Now, if they did an incremental, if they didn't pass a minimum wage increase, let's say it was a percentile increase up to a certain percentage and everybody got a raise, that would be okay. But the minute they raise that minimum wage, the cost of living is going to go up. Because, McDonald's isn't going to pay people like $15 an hour and not raise the price of a double cheeseburger, or the gasoline stations or the stores. So basically, what they're going to do is take money from people like me, any disposable income, so that other people can live better. Well, that's fine and dandy, but there's a word for that. It's called stealing.
Yes, exactly. And I think the other kind of concern with all of this is that when you do go to work and pay your taxes, when there's no cost of living increase with your job, because let's face it, the cost of living has gone up and up and up.
Absolutely.
And it's cheaper to live in some areas than it is in others. But do you know what really kind of bothers me? I know politicians have a job to do, but why the helicopter should they get such vast, fat pay rises? I think it should all be based upon what's the phrase I'm looking for? It should be output based salaries. So what you do, you should get paid according to that on what you're doing for your constituents. Because why the hell, should some politician be claiming a $200 breakfast when there are people that have to go to work without eating breakfast? I mean, there's no continuity in this country, and that really bothers me. That has got to change. And one of the promises of this administration was that nobody would be left behind. But there are millions of people that are left behind, and that to me is a concern. I'm not saying it's just this administration. I think that I'm coming to see that politicians are politicians are politicians. When they're lying because their mouths are open. And the unfortunate thing is that they lie a lot more to get you to put your tick in their box. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens the next, elections, to see which way they go. Because we were saying last week on the show that there's always this pattern, and it's kind of like repeated in England too. Like the Dems are in for a period of time, and then the public get pissed off with them, so they give the Republicans a try again, and they F it up royally. So they give the Dems nobody can kind of get it right, because what they offer to us when they're selling their snake oil on election day is totally different to what they can actually provide to us as a general public.
Well, Xander, one of the things about the American political system that I don't think people realize, everybody, you hear a lot of talk about throw those bums out of office, right? But here's the problem with our political system. It's not based on a national level. It's actually based on a local level. And that's part of the problem. Meaning, if you talk to somebody in their local district, like I love my representative, and everybody in their local district, that's how their representative gets selected, by bringing home the bacon, the pork, the special projects, by taking the lobbyist money and everything. And then the people that vote in their district love them because they take care of their district, but then nationwide, when you take it as a whole, they're skunks. You know, and
right.
but people think, oh, the other guy sucks, but my guy's okay, and everybody thinks that and votes the same people in, and that's.
Right.
I think that's how we got the current balance of power with Obama and the Republicans, honestly. It's like, how did we do the same thing that we said wasn't working as a country the first time? I was dumbfounded by that election. I mean, either vote Obama in and the Republicans out, or vote Obama out and the Republicans in. But come on now.
Well, I've spent a large amount of my life in England, and I've really got used to British politics and had to kind of learn things again. But over there, they have a similar system. They have like the House of Lords, which is kind of like the House of Representatives, and also the Houses of Parliament, where all what the equivalent to presidents, they're called MPs over there. So it's a very similar system. However, the ruling class is mostly the House of Parliament, which is like the Senate here, and the House of Lords, which they sit on their fannies and do nothing and tick a box once in a while and get paid $1 million a year for, is kind of a bit like the House of Representatives. In my opinion, but the difference is in England the House of Commons and the Houses of Parliament are kind of like, they don't have one party ruling one and one ruling the other. It's normally like a consensus. So if the Democrats were in, the Democrats would be in charge of both houses. So I think that's what causes a lot of the conflict here, and it's kind of scary. It really is.
Well, that's one of the things with the Scottish election. I saw a post, and I'm a libertarian, so of course I disagree with it fundamentally, but it did raise a valid point, and I like looking at the other side of the issues as well, as you know. And what they said is, okay, this is why democracy don't work and why you can't have it in the hands of the people, a direct democracy, and this is why we need bureaucrats in the government to run our lives. Because look at that 45%. 45% of the people wanted freedom from England. Now they have no recourse because the average Joe on the street, but that's still over almost half the country. So what do you do with democracy? And it raised some interesting questions. Does democracy, direct democracy, really work? And what this guy was saying in his post was, it doesn't work, and that's why we need the government and bureaucrats, and that's why we're more of a republic, because our founders knew that. Because if you leave it up to the average Joe on the street, gay marriage would be banned, homosexuals would be in jail, black people would still be in separate congregations if you leave it up to a popular vote and you trust the average person. Now, I disagree vehemently like that. As you know, I'm a libertarian. I believe in freedom. I believe you trust the people. But they did raise a very good point on that matter. Can you really trust the people twittering on their phones and walking into people on the street to make a national decision?
Exactly. I don't think that we're ever going to have a utopian society, and I don't think any one particular party is going to get it right. I'm very torn right now. I would refer to myself as a libertarian after being a lifelong Democrat. This administration has really, well and truly, pushed me away, and I think I have Republican friends who say, "Oh, would you ever vote Republican, Xander?" No, I wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't. But if a more libertarian Republican stood for office, they would definitely have my backing, like Rand Paul or someone like that. He just needs a stylist. Get yourself a stylist, Rand Paul. I know he listens to the show. And he would definitely have my support. But one thing that's come up recently, I don't know if you've actually seen about this, continuing the same vein, the House of Representatives are soon going to be voting to authorize the president to arm and train Syrian rebels. Now, I don't like that terminology because I don't consider them to be rebels. If they're fighting back against the government that's operating genocide, that's not rebellion. That's survival. So Boehner said, Boehner, I can't not call him Boehner, I don't know why, said Obama made a compelling case for action, and during his recent address to the nation, whether the mission the president laid out is aggressive enough to reverse the Islamic State's momentum remains to be seen. Now, he said a lot of our members think a lot more needs to be done than what was laid out last night. This was directly after the president's address. Boehner, or whatever his name is, Republican Ohio, said, "I'm not sure that we're doing all we can to defeat this terrorist threat, and if our goal is to eliminate ISIL, there is a lot of doubt whether the plan that was outlined by the president is enough to accomplish that mission." Now, Obama pledges to degrade and ultimately destroy ISIS, or should that be ISIL, and who even knows? And even though they are not Islamic, and neither is halal food, funnily enough, members are being briefed on a range of options that the president is considering. Now, Boehner called on lawmakers of both parties to close ranks and support Obama's plan with a unified voice. An F-16 is not a strategy, and airstrikes alone will not accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. Now, what's your immediate reaction to this, Tony, that the president wants to arm and train potential terrorists? Now, before everybody calls in or writes in and says I'm saying all Syrians are terrorists or all Muslims are terrorists, I'm not,
Well, you only have to look further than Representative John McCain to know the answer to that. I don't know how simpler to put it. You just need to know that John McCain is supporting the president's actions to know they are wrong. I mean,
right.
It's really. Can you hear me, Xander?
I can.
Xander, okay. Sorry, I thought I lost you for a minute. Rand Paul's got it absolutely right on this, and I didn't understand. At first I was critical of him. I thought he was changing his view because he was like, declare war on ISIS, and then he was saying we shouldn't arm the Syrian rebels. No, he's absolutely right. These are rebel extremists. We have done this with Al-Qaeda. We created ISIS, for heaven's sakes. And now we're going to arm the next group. Our own intelligence community is telling us there's a group that's a bigger threat. I can't think of the name. It begins with a B, I think, in Syria right now that's worse than Al-Qaeda and ISIS put together, and they're the real threat. So we're going to ship more weapons over there? I mean, this is ridiculous. If this is a threat, you fight a war.
Boko Haram or something you're talking about?
Yes, exactly. Thank you. I couldn't think of the name of it. I mean, if they are a threat to the United States of America and our security, and this is where the libertarian of me comes out with all jaws fighting. When I saw people getting beheaded on TV, I was the first to say, let's go in and let's get them. This is inhumane or whatever. I mean, come on. We don't put up with this. We're Americans. Let's go drop
But, Tony,
the bomb.
let me stop you for a second. Going in to get them and bombing them and stuff is totally different to arming them and giving them the potential. Apparently, I read this week that 3 of those terrorists that were freed by the Obama administration are top-ranking terrorists and have gone back and are working with ISIS. All these abbreviations, I really would like to know who's who and what's what, because it's very difficult to be aware, isn't it?
Well, and here's the tough part for me. Okay, I am not and contrary to popular belief, libertarians are not completely anti-war. Okay? When the United States is threatened, we believe you should, in general, most libertarians, defend it. But the problem is our president did not make a compelling case for how we were at risk, number one. Even though the beheadings got me emotional at first, honestly, and I was like, let's for it, let's go get them, let's kill them all, this is war. But hindsight now, really, they haven't made the case how this is a threat to the United States, number one. Number two, if they were to make that case, it's time to send the Marines in. You fight a war. You don't give other terrorists the weapons. If you're going to fight a war, you fight a war. Now, I will point out, and I might take a lot of flack for this, but there's an old saying, the enemy of my enemy is your friend. Okay?
Oh, my God, you're psychic. I was just thinking that's so spooky. I swear to you, that was just going through my mind.
The thing to do is, now I'm not the president, and maybe there's other reasons, but to me it's struggling more as pride, quite honestly. Okay? If a smart leader would have gone to the Assad regime right now and not put our aircraft at risk and said, you know what, I tell you what, it's to your benefit, we're going to get rid of half the rebels for you. We'll coordinate with you on getting rid of ISIS, and then all bets are off, then we can fight each other again. And that, I think, would have been a better, instead of saying we will not cooperate with Syria, for God's sake, Syria's fighting the same enemy as you. Yes, the man is a brutal dictator, but it goes back to one of the basics of wars. The enemy of my enemy is your friend. You coordinate with Syria for now to wipe out ISIS, and then you worry about Assad and his dictatorship. And Assad understands that perfect. He knows you're not friends, but you have a common enemy that's a threat to both of you. Well, the pride should have kind of given way to common sense and said, you know what? Syria's got the capable army in this case. They can take them out. We're going to provide Syria, the Assad regime, with the intelligence of where they're at, and we'll support them, and they'll let our airplanes in, and we'll do that, and we're not arming anyone, and then they can fight civil war all over again, and we'll go back to being against Assad. That would have made sense.
But do you see the point? My only concern of all of that is two points. Number one, Syria is pissed. The Syrian people are pissed with us, and I know this for a fact because I've spoken to people who I know who are Syrian. Mm-hmm. They're pissed that America didn't intervene a long time ago before Bashar al-Assad killed all those people. Secondly, how do we know that once we've armed those Syrians that they're not going to turn around and attack us? Because I think, this is the thing, we are at risk right now, and I don't think that President Obama sees how great that risk is. I mean, I was surprised they didn't try something on 9/11. I mean, thank God that they didn't.
Thank God. I mean, here's the
I was
thing,
expecting
Xander. Here's the thing, and actually those two breaches of the White House are very concerning because that could be a terrorist group testing the defenses of the White House. I mean, they might have seen too many Olympus Fall. What's the movie, Olympus Has Fallen or whatever, and the White House movies, they might have gotten ideas from that. I mean, that's scary that the White House was breached twice. People are like kind of taking it lightly, but that could be actually the first step of a terrorist gathering intelligence. Anyway, that's a side topic. The thing with Assad is this. Why we don't need to arm the Assad regime, but we can coordinate our airstrikes with them. Like I said, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Coordinate with them, let them knock out ISIS, and so the only credible fighting force, and they still have the best army in the region right now. Let them fight it. I would go back to World War II history. Joseph Stalin, I think we can all agree, was a brutal, evil dictator. I think there's general consensus that Stalin was an evil dictator. But we fought a war side by side with Stalin to get rid of Hitler. Because Roosevelt wisely saw Hitler was the threat. If we didn't deal with Hitler now, there would be no United States of America. Roosevelt saw that, and he made a pact with the devil. Now, we paid with that throughout the Cold War for years to come. Right. But if Roosevelt could do it...
Go on.
If Roosevelt could do it...
However, that we wouldn't have had Hitler if it hadn't have been for America, because it was an American bank. The bankrolled Hitler and the Nazi Party.
Well, and that is true historically. If you do the research, I hate to admit it, that is true. One of their biggest bases of support were people in the United States. But what else is new with history? I mean, we created Al Qaeda. People don't like to admit that. We bankrolled Al Qaeda and we bankrolled ISIS. By smuggling arms from Libya. This group didn't appear out of nowhere. We smuggled arms covertly from Libya. That's what that whole Benghazi little incident was about, because they had their arms smuggling operation to funnel the money to the extremists in Syria. Boom, ISIS is created. We created it.
Do you know the reason they knew for sure that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and Afghanistan, et cetera, is because they damn well sold them to them in the 80s, or they sold them the components to make them. So it's kind of ironic to me. This is all so circular. This is why I want to leave and go and live away from everybody else, because I hate humanity. Humanity just, how can we sit back and say, oh my God, it's so bad and it's so unfair, when it's all things that we've contributed to and helped to create, you know?
And I'd like to pose a what if scenario in this case. What if, okay, now, our president does not want to cooperate with the Syrian regime because they've murdered their own people and they used chemical weapons on them, right? That's the basic given. We're not going to help a dictator and a brutal, evil monster like that. That's the justification, right? But what if 6 months from now, ISIS gets a biological weapon and attacks New York City?
Yep.
And millions die. What if they smuggle something in and they manage to pull something like that off with a chemical or biological or even low-level nuclear device? How will history judge President Obama? Well, I didn't want to make an alliance with somebody who used chemical weapons on their own people. So I allowed a group to get more powerful because I didn't want to do that, and they used chemical weapons in the United States. Now, I know that sounds far-fetched, but...
So let me ask you something, Tony, because you kind of I know that you're sensible enough to kind of like have a good response to this. Now, all of these accusations about the president being a Muslim and being aligned with the Muslim Brotherhood and all of these things, what do you think about that? How do you react to that commentary? Is it just slander mongering, or do you think there is in essence some truth to it? I mean, obviously his father was a Muslim, but my father was a Catholic, but I'm not a Catholic, No disrespect to other Catholics, Tony, of course. Right. I thought I'd better throw that in very quickly.
I would like to, basically, I think the Democrats laugh when a Republican makes a statement like that. It just feeds into their hands. I think it's total nonsense. There are so many, Obama could say we're defending the country. We could be attacked tomorrow, and some Republicans in the Tea Party would criticize him, if he sent the military. The man in some people's eyes can't do any right, and that's just wrong. These extremes when it comes to the President of the United States are retarded. There's no other way to put it. Oh, he's a secret Muslim. Oh, he's going to destroy America. Oh, he's the Antichrist. I've heard the most. If an earthquake happened, it would be Obama's fault in some people, and the Facebook comments would back it up.
I totally agree with you, but in fairness, they said it about Bush too. I remember watching a video once that on YouTube that showed you all this evidence that the American government and also the Bush administration, that Bush was the Antichrist, and all of this was brought up as well about his grandfather bankrolling the Nazi Party. I'm not a fan of George Bush Jr., but I can't blame him for what his grandfather did. It's ridiculous. If my grandfather punched your grandfather 100 years ago or 80 years ago, that's not my fault, and it's nothing to do with you or I. Do you know what I mean? I think there's far too much of this BS around where people. I think what people actually want to do is they just kind of like use it to create disharmony. And I don't think for 1 minute that he is a Muslim. I don't like quite a lot of the decisions he's made and the things that he's done, but I still have to respect him because what is this is always my question. How come it was inappropriate to be disrespectful about President Bush, and then that made you unpatriotic? Why does it not make you unpatriotic to be disrespectful about President Obama? Because I'm always ready to talk about the policies I disagree with, but I will not insult the man because I do not think that is fair.
Because there is a movement in this country right now, a very strong one. I don't know if you came across my last 2 Facebook posts, but it was basically a reaction to that. Of if you say something that's politically unpopular or incorrect, you are a racist, a hater, a bigot, or un-American, depending on who you talk to. I saw that comment on Black history, and the thing was they were crediting a black person with inventing the cell phone. And I took a fit. I went off on them for it, and I said, this is racist and this is a lie. You can't do this. And I did my research. I assure you, I checked all the websites first. And the guy himself admits he had nothing to do with the cell phone. And it's like, but if I call that out, you know what? People, the post was down for 2 or 3. Yeah, the post actually got taken down for a while because I think people reported it as hate speech because I said this is a racist lie. A black person didn't invent the cell phone. Wow. And I wasn't speaking against black. I said there's many great African Americans, there's great inventors, but because I dared challenge, the Black Pride movement, people thought it was hate speech. And that it's the same with anything. With gay rights,
it's a 21st century.
Right?
It's a 21st century disease that we not you and I, but we, as in the royal we, accuse people of being phobic because they disagree with us. I've just been banned from Annie Lennox's page from commenting, and I've been a fan of hers all of my life, when she was with the Eurythmics, when she was a solo artist, because we disagree on the issue in Israel. And I've never been rude to her, and I've said what I think, but I've never been rude about it to her. But she's banned me from our page. But so I can buy her CD, but I'm not allowed to disagree with her. Well, she's lost my support now, because to me, you know, Tony, in all the time we've known each other, we don't agree on everything. There are a lot of things that we will never agree on, but we're still good friends. We don't allow those disagreements to come in between our friendship, and that's the mature thing.
No.
So why can't go on?
There's neither party's immune to that. I just want to point out, I mean, I'm picking on the liberal side, but the conservative side is just as bad. I was banned from a Christian coffee house business web Facebook post because I dared challenge them on school prayer. They were doing a public prayer thing on National Day of Prayer, and all I did was quote Jesus' words that when you go into your room and go into the closet and pray, and your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And I just put the direct quote from Matthew on there, and I got banned from the page because it didn't sit with their agenda. So it's not just the left that does it, the right does it as well. But, I mean, it's a disease in this country right now where if somebody says something they don't agree with, I've heard people talk as far as, oh, they should be put in jail for that. You know, it's crazy.
You see, either we have freedom of speech or we don't. And I'll be the first one to admit, you know, a few years ago, I have evolved so much in the past 10 years. A few years ago, I would have said that you were phobic if you disagreed with my commentary. But that's just ridiculous. You know, opinions are like a-holes. We all have them. We all don't like show them in public. And the thing is, at the end of the day, if your opinion differs to mine, who's to say that your opinion is better than mine, or vice versa? And I think it's illogical to want to be so blind to both sides of the issue, to not even want to look at my point of view, and not even to acknowledge that what I'm saying is possibly right, and vice versa. I mean, people just. I've even had people fight with me on Facebook because I am prepared to walk away and concede. Because what's the point? Why does it matter if someone in the other side of the world or in New Jersey doesn't agree with my take on a particular situation? I'm still going to be doing my radio show next week and my TV show, and I'll still be going to bed tonight. And do you know what I mean? It does not affect my life one iota whether you agree with me or not.
And you know what bothers me most about it, Xander? And I want everybody to hear me who's listening to this. It devalues the real problem. Let's take gay bashing, okay? We had that case in Philadelphia where those guys were brutally beaten, from what I understand, just because they were gay. Yes, it still happens in America, unfortunately. Okay?
Right.
That is a hate crime. That is homophobia. That's a hate crime. When you attack somebody, slur their name, and beat them within an inch of their life because of their sexual orientation, that's a hate crime, and it should be an abomination to everyone. But, see, that loses value now in today's society because you're calling a Christian who says homosexuality is wrong hateful, and it's a hate crime, and they've committed a hate crime because they happen to believe it's wrong. So what you've done is you've devaluated the indecency and the despicability and the victims of the actual hate crime that's actually happened because you're loosely applying these labels to everything. Same thing with terrorism. I applaud Obama on that. He's got a very strict definition of terrorism. You can't when you start to use these terms and accuse people, and you broaden the definition, you devaluate the actual act itself and the victims of that act. And that's not fair to the people. I mean, it's not fair to call a Christian who's preaching against homosexuality and accuse him of a hate crime. That's not fair to those poor guys in Philadelphia right now.
Exactly.
Ask them if it's the
you know
same
what, Tony?
thing.
Because I have been vilified within the LGBTQ ABCDFG community because my opinion on gay marriage is not the same as everybody else's. As a Christian, I do not feel it's appropriate for two men to be married in church. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong in that. Maybe you disagree with that. I just feel that holy matrimony is totally different from marriage. That's my opinion, but I have the right to that opinion, but I've been vilified for having that opinion. And do I care? No, I don't. Does it change my opinion? No, it doesn't.
And see, I've been called everything from a homophobe, which was a very ironic, to anti-Christian. I mean, I'm sure you've been called it all too. And the thing is, when you speak the truth, and it's funny how quickly, what amazes me is when the people that normally support you or are part of your party or your group or your orientation or whatever, when you go against what they say, how quickly you become the enemy. It's like there's no dissension allowed in any political movement or cause.
It's scary,
today.
Isn't it? It's so damn scary.
I mean, as a libertarian, when I came out, you probably recall the gun control when you and I were talking about reasonable gun control. Boy, did I get blasted on the libertarian front for that I wasn't a real libertarian because I believed in reasonable gun control. Like, when did it get to this point in America where everything is black and white and you either fit into one box or the other? I mean, I don't understand how people don't have free thought or free thinking, but on the other hand, people are afraid to express free thought and free thinking because of all these threats to them nowadays of being called this or called out on this or threatened with fines or imprisonment. It's like, or boycott or losing your job. So we're discouraging free thought and free thinking, and it goes right back to that cell phone thing, into this digital society where nobody thinks anymore and everybody just clicks a like button or, oh yeah, that's what it is. Oh, that's the news story. They don't question the story behind the news. Like if I hear cop shooting, for instance, if I hear a cop shot an unarmed man, the first thing I want to know is what was the man doing? And I'm not talking about Ferguson. Don't misunderstand. I'm saying I want to know both sides. So if the news says, a cop was shot, if the news says a cop was shot, I want to know what the cop was doing. There were cops that busted into an apartment recently, and the man in Texas is being tried with capital murder for a no-knock raid, for capital punishment against a police officer, but the SWAT team busted through the window. Well, I'd shoot somebody busting through my window if I had a gun. So nobody questions the official accounts anymore on either side. And it's a shame.
I'm not even prepared to discuss Ferguson until I've seen all the facts, because all I've seen up to now is opinion. So until the facts are out there, I'm really not. I'm not going to comment on it, and I'm not going to get into cop bashing either. I'm really not, because I think that that there's far too much of it has been going on up to now. So let's have a quick look at our last story, Tony, because time is catching up with us.
Okay.
The last story I got for today was with reference to it seems the new Miss Manners Barbie is anything but. A woman says the talking Barbie she bought for her 7-year-old daughter actually curses, saying, "What the F-U-C-K." Now, the doll is supposed to say 15 different kid-friendly phrases, including, "I love a makeover," "There's no substitute for glitter." But when Talina Evans of North Wales in England heard, of the United Kingdom even, heard Barbie drop the F-bomb, she said she was shocked. She said, "I think it's very irresponsible of the toy company. They know that children are going to play with these toys." And although she tried to return the doll to the store, they said she couldn't have a refund if she didn't have her frickin' receipt. So apparently her daughter is sad that the toy is being taken away from her, but said, Mommy, give me back my blanking doll, you mother effing bitch." No, I mean, she said she understood that it's wrong to swear, and so the doll has to go. Now, Mattel have given a statement saying it's looking into the incident, and many online comments have suggested the doll is actually saying off the hook. Someone needs to teach Barbie to enunciate, it seems. So what do you make of this, Tony? Do you think it's being misheard, or do you think some devious person in the factory has added that to the list of things that Barbie has to say?
you know, it's no different than the incident of poisoning, or you hear about the Disney hidden messages, and I've watched the videos on YouTube of the Disney hidden messages. Believe me, they're there. You don't notice them until you point it out. So it's very possible some devious individual pointed it out. It's also very possible, it's like when you look at a collage, or the counselors tell you, look at the collage, what do you see? And you're making it out to hear what you wanted. So it's kind of, it goes back to what you said about the police and the Ferguson thing. It could be either. Either the woman's just not hearing it right and she's overly protective, or some devious individual planted that. But if I was Mattel, I'd do some real serious, I wouldn't be taking it so lightly, you know? I mean, and if it does turn out that the doll does say that, if I were the woman, I'd file a lawsuit, you know?
Absolutely. The least they could have done was given her money back, whether she had the register receipt or not.
Yeah.
Because here they would give you a store credit, wouldn't they?
Yeah, usually stores are pretty good about the store credit. I mean, every store has its own policies. Walmart, the villain of the world, is very good about returns. You know, we all know Walmart's responsible for the whole world's evil, of course.
Well, I'm very torn about Walmart. Every time I've had an issue with them, they've refunded me the money even before they've had the item back. And so, you know, without getting into all the wages issue, et cetera, they've always actually treated me pretty well. Sorry?
Right. I mean, and you know something, I think you know Kiko works at Walmart, you know? And
no, I
don't mind
that.
saying it. Oh, he works at Walmart. He's been working there for a good couple of months now. And one of the things he tells me is they treat us really well. I don't know what people are talking about, you know? And I've heard from other Walmart employees, they treat them really well. And that gets into the same issue of media hype. You know, who creates these stories and what agendas are there? Because if you talk to the people themselves, I mean, granted, there's, you know, you're going to have people there that just don't want to work, for instance, that are at any employer, you're going to have people that don't want to work and are vindictive about it. But for the most part, I don't hear all these. You know what I heard? That the people that Kiko know at Walmart, none of them are on the food stamps or whatever. You know, so where do these stories get planted from, and who makes them, and who doesn't question them? See, these are the questions we all should be asking.
There's a word
instead
for
of
it,
just
isn't
repeating
there?
the stories.
What's it called? My brain is not working today, so my instant recall is not happening. It's like propaganda. That's the word.
Yes.
It's propaganda.
Yes.
And both sides of both parties are kind of guilty of it. I'm equally as vehement with my Republican friends as I am with my Democrat friends when they say Republicans this or Democrats that. I always go some. And they're like, what do you mean some? They're all like it. I'm like, they're not all like it. How can you say every single Democrat or every single Republican in the union is the same? But they are. Oh, but they are. All Republicans are this. All Republicans are anti-gay. All Democrats are too liberal. All Democrats want free, what's it called? Women's stuff for free. And it's not true. Some women want to pay it. Some female Democrats are quite happy to pay for birth control. So we really, really can't generalize. And I think that when we do, it becomes very, very, very dangerous ground.
And that's why I am a libertarian. You know, I used to be, as you know, strong Republican because I believe in the freedom. Less government, government, people helping people. Well, the thing is, you know, it's so classic. The Republicans believe in more freedom and freedom from the government unless it's a moral issue of gay marriage or prayer in school or something, and then they want to tell everybody how to run their lives, you know, but the government, but not regulation. On the other hand, with the left, oh no, we should be left to do whatever we want, but people need to be protected from themselves and we need more government regulation. And that's exactly how I became a libertarian. It's like, okay, so both sides talk about freedom, but each have their own agenda and want to take away freedom. And that's where I really came into libertarian understanding of, you know what? This is America. This is a democratic republic. Can't forget the word republic or people will get on me after that. But we are a republic which is democratic-based. And you know what? People should be free to make their own choices and their own decisions, moral
Agreed.
or otherwise, apart from the government. So I became libertarian.
I totally agree. I don't know, but you might get a cookie.
Yeah, I wonder if I'll get cookies for that one.
Sorry, I was just having a problem with the chat. Yeah, I totally agree with that. We've actually run out of time, but it's been fabulous talking to you as ever. Tell people where they can find you, Tony, on social media, and tell them where your website is.
Well, the website, as you know, it's the Full Story 2014 for the political feeds, which I don't update often. I will give everybody that warning. But the life coaching feed is Internet Life Coach, and it's really that simple on Twitter. It's the Internet Life Coach. Specifically, it is. I actually wrote it down this time, Xander. It's, the Internet Life Coach on Twitter. And the other one, as you know, is the Full Story, at the Full Story 2014 for the politics. I do like to keep them separate, and anybody can always go on Facebook and look me up too.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining us again today. We will endeavor to share your links on the website www.xandergibb.com. But for now, Tony Losacco, thank you for being our guest co-host, and I look forward to coming and joining us again very soon.
Thank you, Xander, for having me on. You have a good day.
You too, Tony. Thanks a lot, and you take care now. That was Tony Losacco, my good friend, a libertarian, a free thinker, and a broadcaster. He will be back with us again, I'm sure, very, very soon. Now, following a historic referendum vote, Scotland will remain part of the United Kingdom along with England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And a majority of voters rejected Scotland breaking away and becoming independent as a nation, with 31 of 32 councils, wrung teeth in, declaring the No campaign has won the referendum on Scottish independence. Scottish First Minister Alex Salmond admitted defeat in Scotland's independence referendum on Friday and urged the rest of Scotland to do the same. The first councils to declare all went to the No campaign, as did the capital Edinburgh, which voted overwhelmingly to stay in the Union. Glasgow delivered a solid win for the independence camp, with 194,779 votes for yes and 169,347 votes for no. But the lead was not big enough to overturn the No camp, so the overall majority, which remains a lead, is over pro-independence. So joining me now to discuss this is my co-host, the one and the only Mr. Tyhe Paul Egar, broadcaster, writer, entrepreneur, HuffPost doyen, and my pal. Welcome back to the show, Tyhe. How you doing?
Hello, I'm okay. I'm happy.
Did you like the HuffPost doyen bit?
I did. I like that. Every time I come on, there's a little bit more on the title. At least, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to keep it interesting. So before we talk about the referendum, let's grab 2 minutes on your news. First of all, you were asked to be a guest on HuffPost Live this week, and you were talking about. What are you talking about? LGBT. I'll let you tell us anyway. What were you talking about, sir?
I was asked to be a guest. Yeah, it was really very nice of them. They asked about LGBT life in different places all over the world. So I was interviewed by a very nice Josh Zepps on HuffPostLive.com. Yeah, and that's what they were basically asking about. You know, life in Scotland and Glasgow for the LGBT community. But obviously, they were asking a little bit about the referendum. And they were all lovely, Catherine and Paula, who made me feel very welcome. And so it was done live via webcam. Obviously, I didn't get jetted over the same as you and I do it. So I was interviewed for about 5 minutes or so, and it felt like longer. But I hope I didn't waffle my way through it. I hope I was okay. The feed went down at one point. So that was the questions really, was asked about that, and he was asking, you know, how welcoming Glasgow is to people, and I was informing him that we are very cultured and lovely people. But it was cool. But it was nice to be asked, because it was just out of the blue. I was invited via Twitter to come and do the interview, which was lovely. And obviously, it was the day of the referendum. People were voting as we were chatting, as I was talking to Josh. And so I was very enthusiastic and hopeful, but sadly, 12 hours later, I awoke to find that our dreams were dashed to the floor.
So tell me about your initial reaction to that, Tyhe, because obviously it's quite important for you, even though you're actually not born in Scotland. You actually have made your home in Scotland, and you've been there for, I don't know, is it 15 years or something like that? How does it feel for you that this referendum has took place and that they've voted against it?
Well, for a start, what I have to say, the following morning when I woke up, I was up at 6 a.m. and the TV went on straight away to find out, the referendum. Well, I was also up at 6 a.m. because I have to say my personal trainer, Mr. Stephen Blackburn, if you're listening, you're a horrible man, was getting me up early. But 6 a.m. the TV went on, and obviously I was waiting for, because the figures were coming in then.
Get that whip out, Stephen.
To the to the board.
Go on, sorry.
And sadly, we then learned that the 10% majority had it. But what it did send a message to Westminster certainly was it was the highest majority of people ever registered to vote in Scotland, and it was only 10%. Now, if you consider that, so Scotland had voted no, they wanted to stay in the Union, but 45% of the people in this country said no, they didn't want to stay in the Union, they wanted independence. Now that is massive. That is massive. So Westminster should still be trembling in their boots, because that is a massive amount of people in one country saying no, we do not want your leadership. So, even though we lost, and it was, I had tears in my eyes. I genuinely had tears in my eyes, because it was heartbreaking. Because you're right. I've lived here 15 years. My heart definitely belongs to Scotland now, not England. Even though yes, I'm an Englishman, but I've lived here those 15 years. As much as I still, I miss London, but that's because my best friend lives there, Debbie. And so there's that kind of connection. But my heart definitely belongs to Scotland now. And it was devastating, because we really, the yes voters, we really believed that we might just cross that line. We didn't think that we'd be 90% vote, but we did hope that we might be that 1-2% across the line to the yes vote. And we still believe that a lot of people voted no out of fear. They just, were afraid of what would happen if it was a yes. I don't believe that people voted, rationally with a belief that they knew it was the right thing to do politically. I think they were just afraid of what the future would hold as a yes vote. So here we are, stuck with the Union. But now that the government have made all these promises that if it was a no vote, we'll give you these powers, we'll give you those powers, we'll do this for you, we'll do that. So we'll see what happens in the next 6 months. But they know now that if they don't deliver those promises, that they're in trouble. Because this was huge. This has been still, even though they lost, this is a massive, massive turn in history. This has still been a historical event in the history of politics in this country.
There are several points to this for me. First of all, as someone that doesn't live in Scotland, but I have actually a lot of relatives that live in Scotland. I'm kind of very torn on it, but my main concern was that I wanted the best for the people of Scotland, and I know this. We've discussed a lot of the pros and cons about this, but do you honestly think, Tyhe, that the United Kingdom government that are based in London are going to do the things now that they've said that they would do, with something I think is called devolution, isn't it? And if they don't, what recourse does the people of Scotland have?
Well, if they don't deliver, basically Scotland at some point can force another referendum, and if another referendum was held now, if they didn't deliver, they would be decimated. There was no question that Scotland would not turn around and say no. You were given your chance. You lied to us. Goodbye.
Right. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's not a case.
It's not a done deal, then, is it?
Not really. It's not a case of now Westminster rubbing their hands together, saying "Ha ha, we have you." So they're not by any means. They don't have us now by the throat you know what I mean? They can't, and if they don't deliver now, it would be very interesting. Do you know what I mean? There will be serious repercussions. So by no means now do Westminster have us by the short and curlies to you know.
But haven't they been promising these devolution powers? I think my terminology is correct. For nearly 10 years, they've been promising this to Scotland for all this time. So what indeed of the devolution powers have they actually done to date in the past 10 years? Because I don't know of any. Maybe you do.
Well, no. But what they did.
I know there is a Scottish Parliament, isn't there?
Yes, there is. But what they did was drag their heels, and they were allowed to do it. But nothing like this has ever been done before. No referendum was ever called before. It was just basically the national government allowed to blanket decisions across the country. But now, literally, a nation has spoken and said, yes, okay, so the majority vote has said we will stay with you, but it's not, as I said, 45% of this vote has said, basically, we are not happy with you. Okay, the majority has spoken, and it's a democracy, so of course, we will, the yes vote is saying we will bow to that democracy. It's a democratic vote, and so we're staying with you because that is what the majority have said. But clearly, this country is saying we are not happy with you. We want change, and we want massive change. And also, a lot has happened. This country has had a big wake-up, not just Scotland, but the UK, because the BBC, the British Broadcasting Company, which is owned by the people of the country, we pay our TV licence, so it's owned by the people of the country, has proved itself to be basically...
Of the whole union it's owned by, not just Scotland, isn't it? Let's make that clear.
No, by the whole...
The people of England, Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales, they own the BBC.
Wales, yes. It has proved itself to basically be a fascist right-wing company because it has deliberately misled people in its reporting. It has only reported news in favour of the Conservative Party. It has misled and misrepresented people. It has lied about figures. And it has misreported the news, deliberately misreported the news. So all these things have to be investigated. All these things have to be highlighted. And the people of this country really need to be made aware of what's been reported to them. They have been lied to like some third world country.
I don't know who is the Director General right now of the BBC, but I know for a fact over the past year, maybe two, that the BBC's direction has changed and the BBC's standing has changed because just the way that they've reported about Israel, the conflict between Israel and Gaza, they have. You see, for me, any news organization should promote the news, and we've said this many times, without their own slant. They have been very anti-Israel for the last year, which is really surprising because the BBC used to be run by Jews. Alan Yentob, Super Jew, used to run the BBC. So I wonder what has changed at the BBC in order for them not to be reporting a little bit more diplomatically, rather than being clearly having agendas and biases. Because to me, that's really concerning. Because most people get their information from these news sources. If it's not the BBC, CNN, it's one, it's another. And I know lots of them have leanings, but the BBC has never been like that up until recently.
No, well, from last year. This has started from last year. I mean, seriously, obviously they had. Thatcher influenced them as well and stopped them reporting at one point years ago, famously. But this was just disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. And God, it must be illegal at some point as a publicly owned company. But they because they were shown. We slag Facebook off all the time for its invasion of privacy, etc. But if it hadn't been for Facebook, I've got to say, if it hadn't been for our access to Facebook over the past few weeks, particularly, the BBC and Twitter, I suppose as well, the BBC would have got away with so much because we were able to transmit and share information so quickly across Facebook, to allow people to see short videos that people were sharing to show how the BBC were lying and deliberately misinforming people. without that access to that kind of information, and obviously, of course, the internet and YouTube, but without that access, that quick, high speed information sharing, the BBC would have got away with outrageous things. They were reporting directly in Glasgow, saying, 1,000 people outside the BBC studios with aggressive, violent demonstrations. And my friends and colleagues were out there all sharing their own video from their phones, and it clearly wasn't violent. They were out there, though, demonstrating and protesting about their lack of reporting for the Yes campaign and their lies and misrepresentation of the campaign. And
I'm sorry, but
it was a clear conflict. You know what I mean? The videos that were being posted by people outside the studio were clearly conflicting the reports from the BBC and also the volume of people. It was disgraceful.
I mean, you can't tell me that celebrities like David Beckham weren't paid to show their support for Scotland remaining in the Union. I don't believe that any of these celebrities, or very few of these celebrities, have just said, "Hey, let me have a spot and let me say how." Because I think most of them don't give two hoots either way. But the concern is that they've come out for this, and I would be keen to know if they've been paid to do it.
Well, also, I mean, look at that at the Music Awards last year. I mean, for God's sake, Kate Moss reads out an acceptance speech from David Bowie, and at the end of it, she says, "I'm pleased to stay with us, Scotland." For a start, when was the last time David Bowie even touched British soil? And two, the only thing I wanted to say was, "Kate, don't worry too much, lovey, because the white stuff on the mountains is just snow." Do you know what I mean? You're not going to lose anything, honey. And it's just, it's just ridiculous. And David Beckham, I have no problem with the Beckhams at all. I mean, good all power to them. They just seem like really nice people. But no, who cares? I think one of the few people who was genuinely honest was Ewan McGregor when he said, "I'm not going to say anything. I haven't lived there for years. I don't feel I have the right to say anything." And I thought, well, for change, all power to you.
I didn't realize he said that.
Yeah, and normally he gets right on my last nerve, to be honest. But I thought, well, good for you. At least you've said something that I can listen to for a change. But the rest of these people think, "Oh, stay with us, stay with us." I'm like, who's us? You don't even live in this country. You don't pay tax in this country. You have no decision about anything in this country. So, I'm desperate to swear right now. But go for it.
Yeah, well, say it. Say it. It's a one-up. It's not like we're going to bleep it out.
But we can. But basically, I mean, fuck you. You don't even live here. Go away and mind your own business. And you're right, Xander. How many of these people have been paid? It's like a lot of these people on Comic Relief, frankly, who go over to whatever country and say, "Look how terrible this is." It's like they paid for their own hotel room and they're not being paid to be there and film. Please do me a favour. Mind your own business. Either that or move back over here and campaign and tell me why we should stay and why you want to back in the country.
I'm kind of losing. I'm losing the will to live with some of these celebrities. I mean, I don't know if you saw on Facebook, Ellie, we discussed that a little bit. You're not allowed to disagree with celebrities anymore, or they ban you from their Facebook pages. I mean, how can you build a fan base based upon who agrees with you and who doesn't? It's one thing if someone comes on your Facebook page and talks trash to you, because get them gone altogether, but surely you can't expect to tell your fans what they should think. You can tell them your opinion, but if they don't agree with that opinion, and you kick them up, your fan base is going to dwindle. I mean, you know that both you and I have been fans of Annie Lennox and the Eurythmics since the dot. Since she was in whatever it was, the Taurus. And so I'm totally respectful of her, but when she bans me from her page because I don't agree with her perspective on the Israel-Gaza conflict, it's kind of it's concerning. Why are these celebrities thinking that they've got this level of control that they can tell their fans what they should think?
Well, absolutely. Mind you, don't call her celebrity, she'll go nuts. but yeah.
Oh, no, she doesn't.
I read that. No, she doesn't like being called. But she's not a celebrity. She's a star. I mean, come on. If you're going to call, she's not a celebrity. But I understand what you're saying, and I did see that on my page. Obviously, you and I clearly we're friends on Facebook, and I saw that, and I'm saddened as well as surprised.
Me too.
Done that. But I don't understand that, because surely that would cause healthy debate, and if you're going to talk about something like that, then that would be what I would want to encourage, would be debate. The reason I've stayed out of the whole Israel thing, obviously you post things on my page and I will happily share and I, you know, and I read things and I try and stay up to date as possible with it. But the reason I've stayed out of that whole debate is because I don't know enough about it, and I don't feel I have enough information to make comments about it.
Do you know the thing that has disappointed me most about Annie Lennox is that I've always admired the humanitarian side of her, and I would have expected her, of all people, to kind of like remain unwavering and not take a side, because her point was about the children that had been killed in the conflict in Gaza, but Israeli kids were killed too. And in all of this, I've tried not to be anti-Gaza or anti-Muslim or anything like that, because the real issue, and educated people can see this, is that it's to do with Israel and Gaza versus Hamas, not Israel versus Gaza. But she just has really disappointed me in her level of response. Hence the fact that I tweeted it. You know, I don't tweet things so people like them. If they do it, it's great. But it's, for me, it's about me venting my opinion. But people don't have to agree with me. I'm not going to block you if you don't agree with me. If you're abusive, I'll tell you to go and F off, and then I might block you. But I won't block you for disagreeing with me, because to me that's just, it's like being back in kindergarten, you know.
Well, yeah, as I say, it saddens me that, you know, that she's done that. But and also, well, I mean, it's a bit strange as well, considering the work she's done for Greenpeace over the years. I mean, it's tragic, from whichever direction it comes from. And this has been going on with Israel and Gaza forever, hasn't it? I mean, well, not forever, obviously, but I mean, it just seems it all, I don't know, war and destruction, it's just exhausting, isn't it?
I know, it totally is. Let's go back to...
It melts my brain. Yeah, go on.
Me too. Let's go back to Scotland for a minute, because I want to know what the reaction has been. I'm sorry, I took it off in a different direction. What has been the reaction been from people on the street? Because I know that I saw a news report on Friday night, and basically it said fighting had broken out and a Union Jack was set on fire. That's what they call the British flag for the American listeners, and was set on fire in the centre of Glasgow, and the tense atmosphere between groups of yes and no supporters spilled over into violence. A small group of skinhead pro-Union Scots, which I think is a hilarious analogy, were booed and chased out of George Square, which had become a focal point for independence supporters. Chants of Rule Britannia were drowned out by a roar of freedom and Brits out from yes campaigners. It sounds to me like it's kind of like going back to yesteryear, you know, in the 1500s. Campaigners fled as punches were thrown. Hundreds of yes supporters goaded the Union supporters, who were surrounded by police for their own protection. I mean, have you seen any violence? What has been the reaction from people that you know? You haven't seen any violence at all?
No, I do know it happened, but the only reports I've had was it was a very small minority of people, and you're always going to get idiots. You and I both know. Yeah, you and I both know this. Any peaceful protest, there are minorities that will use that event to cause trouble themselves because it's a cheap excuse for them to do it. There have been a small, and I mean a small minority of people who've done that. There have not been riots on the streets. Nobody rational or sensible has ever shouted, "Brits go home." A lot of us, obviously, like myself, have been huge yes campaigners. I have not once been assaulted verbally or physically on the streets as an Englishman. There have not been any campaigns on the streets of Glasgow about getting English people off the streets. I have not seen anybody physically attacked. There have been people getting stupid on the streets, but there've been, as I say, minorities, like 2 or 3 people attacking 2 or 3 people, or verbal assaults on the streets. Certainly there've been that, but again, you get that anywhere. And you'll always have an idiot, you know, people drink as well, and they do that anywhere. Again, that's not Scottish people, that's just people, and alcohol don't always get on well. In fact, seldom get on well in that kind of climate. But no, so again, I wonder who's reporting this action again. So if you see these reports coming from the BBC, really don't pay too much attention.
I didn't take it from I didn't take it from the BBC. I don't see them as a reliable news source anymore,
No.
unfortunately.
But there have been a couple of incidents, yes, but not anything. I mean, don't worry. If you think there are mass attack riots going on in the streets, it's truly not happening. It really isn't. Because if it was, you would hear it from the Xandermonium. Do you know what I mean? I obviously would be on the phone.
Don't cancel your Scottish holiday at all.
No, absolutely
don't go canceling your holiday to Scotland because you're worried that there will be issues. Because I don't think that that's the case at all. I mean, what I want to know is, are people like Alex Salmond? Am I pronouncing his name right?
Alex Salmond.
I hope people like him are going to get off their ass now and monitor the situation with regards to devolution and giving more powers to Scotland because they've stayed in the Union. Because it's imperative to do so, surely.
Well, sadly, Mr. Salmond resigned.
He did? Wow. When did that happen?
He resigned the day of the results. He resigned his post and has stepped down. So, I don't know what will happen now. But I think that's not a bad thing because people weren't voting for him. See, this is the misunderstanding that everybody had as well. A lot of people saying, we don't like him, we're not voting for the SNP, which is the Scottish National Party, by the way, for anybody listening, because we have all these acronyms and titles and things. The SNP were the political party that were leading this, which is the Scottish National Party, and Mr. Salmond was the leader. And people were thinking that we're voting for him. It wasn't about that. He would have stepped down. It wasn't the party that people were voting for. It was, his independence, that they were the leaders for the independence. So he would have been expected to step down, but obviously we weren't expecting him to do this so quickly. But he stepped down. But I think, he's probably heartbroken because as a lot of people were.
I think a lot of people probably are, really. To be honest, I think a lot of people are very shocked by it.
We are. There's no question. But he stepped down. So, I mean, now it's all a case of who's going to take the lead. But now we're waiting. It was yes, but I mean, I'm sorry, but as a yes, well, I'm not sorry at all, but as a yes voter, I'm now waiting for those people, because obviously there are no voters who are gloating a little bit and saying, now we're back, we're staying with the union, this is what we should do. So there are a lot of us, I'm afraid, as yes voters waiting for nothing to happen, and then saying, well, you wanted this, now, where are the promises, where are they coming from? Let's just see how much Westminster give us, just let's see where Cameron and his cohorts put their money where their mouth is. Put our money where their mouth is.
Yes, exactly. I was just thinking that watch this space. We will be giving you regular updates about this issue. I was really surprised at how many Americans were actually interested in the process, and I think that part of it was to do with that some states might try and go the same route, and I wonder how this will actually what this will dictate to the possibility. I know America is a totally different country, but I'm sure that some states will be starting to consider stepping out of the union.
But you know what? I hope it's shaking a lot of places. I hope it's shaking the whole of the UK. Full stop. Do you know?
Right.
Because the whole of the north of England is being devastated by the south of England. By Westminster, by London, by this little black hole called Westminster, which is the seat of our Parliament. For American listeners, Westminster is the seat of our Parliament, and it is a little black hole, and it's sucking the life out of the country. So I hope that has been a warning bell to Westminster that people are simply not prepared to take this anymore. And good, and if that's been a booster for the rest of the world, or the rest of the first world, good, because it's about time these vampires were scared, and let's wake them up and let's make them aware that people are tired of being kicked in the stomach, and people are starving. People are truly going hungry. It's just not acceptable,
Take heed, Washington. Take heed, Washington, or you could end up with the People's Republic of New York City. There you go.
And it is, and the sad thing is as well, Prince William out there today at Malta while they celebrate their 50th year of independence. Sadly that could, if that had happened last week, maybe that would have been a little bit of a booster for the voting this week, and saying, well, look, do you know what? there's one of those countries that have done it, and they not only did it successfully, they've done it successfully for 50 years, and they've done it very affluently for 50 years, you know. But there you go.
Absolutely.
Here we are.
Well, we're coming to the end of our time together, Tyhe, but I just want to give you a moment to tell people about your website because it's live now, and tell people a very quick synopsis of what you're doing and where they can find you on the interweb.
Well, do you know what? What I want to finally say, because I know people are going, yeah, whatever, this website. So all I'm going to say, because my sister, my friend Xander, has his own little page on our website too. So I'm going to say, you do. So what I'm going to simply say to people, because you've heard about it, I'm going to say, for all the information about me and what we do, simply go to www.brokenflowersmultimedia.com and all will be revealed.
Absolutely.
And you can follow me. All my links are there.
Absolutely. And there'll be a link from the homepage on Xandermonium next week, so you can get to it from there if you didn't get a chance to make a note of it. Also, have a look at my Twitter feed. I sent out a link earlier for people to follow Broken Flowers Multimedia on Twitter too. There is already a Facebook page, so follow them on Facebook too, and go say hi to Jen and Tyhe. But for now, Tyhe, thank you so much for joining us today and give us a bit of an insight into the latest vote in Scotland regarding independence, and we will speak to you again very soon. Thank you for joining us, and you have a fabulous week.
You too, honey. Take care. Bye, everyone.
All right. Thanks a lot. Take care. Lots of love. That was the fabulous Tyhe Paul Egar, writer, broadcaster, entrepreneur, entertainer. The list goes on. Huffington Post doyen. Make sure you go check out his website, which is finally live, www.brokenflowersmultimedia.com, and tell him that Xander sent you. Thanks to everyone who's made the show possible today. Thanks to Tyhe Paul Egar. Thanks to Tony Losacco, broadcaster libertarian and free thinker, wrong teeth in today. Don't forget to check out the next episode of my TV show Xandermonium, which will be Friday, September 26th at 6 p.m., Channel 68 on Cablevision and Channel 34 on Verizon. Now, if you're not in the locality, you will be able to check out the show right after it's aired on YouTube. So thank you for joining us today. I hope you'll come join us again next week. And thanks for listening, and I love you all. Bye-bye.